Hi, I'm Jesse Eisenberg, and I'm in studio with The Hollywood Reporter.
I just watched the film, and wow, what a ride.
Yeah.
Casey's such an interesting guy.
Yeah. He is. Yeah, the movie takes place in this kind of parallel world where you can't place where it takes place, so you can't place like what time period it is. And so my character is like an extreme version of a timid man. Like he can't even speak. He's so nervous to say anything to anybody else. His only friend is a dog. He gets attacked on the street, and then he joins this karate class, and so and it's kind of like a cult. And he joins this karate class to kind of learn how to defend himself, and gets swept up in just the most bizarre kind of series of circumstances.
Yeah, he really does get swept up. Now, I know you've said that Casey is probably the most fun you've had playing any character. What were your favorite parts about playing Casey?
He's like a 10-year-old boy, and like he thinks like a 10-year-old. He assumes everybody's a good person. He assumes everybody's earnest, but he's also terrified of everybody. And I just love like doing anything that, like, I don't know, can take me out of my normal way of behaving. One of the great joys of acting is to kind of be able to behave in a different way, but in a safe environment, you know, in a place where that's acceptable. You know, if I acted like a 10-year-old boy all day in New York, I'd get punched and I wouldn't be able to ride the subway. So like getting to do that in a movie was just like, I don't know, it was like cathartic and therapeutic and interesting and fun.
Now, this film is definitely not your average karate film. Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of think that when you first start to watch it, and then at some point in the film you're like, this is not Three Ninjas. Right. So what was your reaction when you first read the script?
Exactly what you said. Like the first 10 pages, I thought like, oh, this is kind of the typical story of like, you know, the kind of meek protagonist who gains his inner strength from like a karate class after being attacked. And I didn't want to do it for that reason because it seemed like kind of a typical thing, and I didn't want to play, you know, like, I don't know, just that kind of cliche, you know, meek protagonist who gains some inner strength from a sport. And then but I kind of just continued to read the script because I thought the dialogue was so great, and I just wanted to kind of, I just saw an ad for gluten-free pasta and a big green giant billboard, and I thought that's a good idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah. I'll have to eat some of that after this interview.
This is like a really great location / very distracting for an interview, but it's like an amazing, obviously, location that you have here. Sorry, we're on the top of Times Square. Okay, anyway, so I thought, okay, let me just continue reading the script because the dialogue is so clever. And as I read it, I realized, oh, this is like an entirely skewed version of the kind of typical sports movie, like you mentioned, like Three Ninjas or something, like where the characters gain some inner strength and then take on the bully at the end.
Right.
Like this is a kind of like, it's a really brilliant satire on modern ideas of masculinity, on what we think a man should be, on misogyny, on homophobia, on sexism, and all this stuff that we're kind of discussing in culture now, and this movie is kind of a really brilliant and sly satire on that.
Yeah. Now, did you have to learn any karate for the film, or what was your relationship to karate before you started filming? Did you know anything?
Karate and I did not have a good relationship.
Yeah.
I was like in New Jersey in the early 90s. I took like 3 classes like every other Jewish kid is supposed to take until they realize they're allowed to quit, and then they do. So I took like one of these storefront karate classes. They called them like, at the time they were called like McDojos, you know, because they were popping up everywhere like McDonald's, you know. And I didn't excel. And then for this movie, I had like 3 weeks of like fight training and karate training with one of the best martial artists in the world, Mindy Kelly, who designed the fights for the movie and choreographed it. And it was great. I mean, you learn all these things like don't talk during class and stand up straighter than I normally do. And all these things that kind of like helped me with the movie and, you know, in a way kind of like gave me the discipline that my character learns. You know, and the movie, like the dojo in the movie is like kind of run like a cult. And so it was great for me to do these classes where I had to kind of like follow an authority figure and do something that I was uncomfortable with, because in the movie my character is like the perfect cult member. You know, he's like, you know, he doesn't, you know, he's lonely and he's looking for an authority figure. And
he's very obedient.
Yes, incredibly obedient. Yeah, so for me to like take the classes and kind of just kind of reorient myself with being an obedient person was helpful before playing that kind of character.
Do you have like a favorite move you could show me? Is there anything you learned?
No, I have several least favorite moves that I will never do.
What is your least favorite move?
All the ones I had to do, you know, that I immediately forgot when the movie ended. Like, you know, God, what is my character's a yellow belt in the movie, so I didn't have to do like that amazing karate. Like the other actors, Imogen Poots and Alessandra Nivola, they are black and brown belts.
Okay.
And so they had to get really good, and they Then there's also this guy named Steve Terada in the movie who's like one of the most amazing martial artists in the world. He's playing a blue belt in the movie, and he's just incredible. So I was like surrounded by people who could do it really well, and could kind of like distract from myself.
Being a yellow belt, no pressure at all. I think I also made it to yellow belt. I can't really remember. Actually,
Really?
I probably only made it to white belt. I like you, I think I took 3 classes and then
This is like a North Carolina suburban thing to do?
Yeah, it
same
was. I
with
guess
New
just
Jersey.
like in New Jersey, yeah.
Yeah. So it was an Eastern Seaboard thing.
Now, where do you and Casey overlap the most? Are there any similarities between you guys, or are you so different?
I mean, anytime I play a role, like I think, oh, this is exactly like me, and then I play a different role, or like like a villain or something, where it's, but I think like, oh, this is exactly like me. I have the same anger as this villain, or in this movie, I'm playing like this incredibly timid person, and I think, yes, of course, I'm exactly timid like that. So you kind of, I don't know, maybe just unconsciously associate yourself with it just by virtue of having to kind of get, into the skin of it, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was like Casey when I was 10 years old. I really did think everybody was going to be nice to me, and if they weren't, or if they weren't nice to somebody else, it was more of a surprise than like, I guess I had kind of like a more innocent view of the world, uncynical. I didn't, try to kind of like charm somebody into getting something from them. I kind of was like more pure, like Casey is in this movie. And so I really liked playing it because it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, a sweeter, older version of myself.
Yeah, you can
younger version
tap
of myself.
into your inner kid.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so nice.
I've done things like that before, like where, the characters are kind of infantilized. And I don't know why, I just love it. Maybe, I don't know why. I guess in some ways it kind of like, I don't know, it's probably some kind of form of therapy somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Now, like you said, this movie explores toxic masculinity, which is it's a buzz term in today's society and in Trump's America, and amid the Me Too and the Time's Up movements. Did exploring this on camera feel more impactful to you in today's social climate?
It was really a strange experience because Riley, who wrote the movie, wrote it in 2015 before the election, before the Me Too movement, and yet we were filming it 2 years later. And while we were filming it, like halfway through the shooting, like the Harvey Weinstein story broke, and so suddenly everybody on set was reading about our industry and this massive shift that was happening in our industry, and learning about, friends and colleagues who were, victimized by this horrible person, and the crimes that were kind of like all under our noses that we were not aware of. And so what was interesting is like kind of reading about this every day and then doing a movie that was not at all a commentary on it intentionally, but became kind of like relevant to the discussion, and thinking about kind of masculinity, thinking about the dangers that comes with, kind of men being told and kind of, instructed even unconsciously to kind of be, strong and bullish bullish to succeed. And so it kind of framed and recontextualized the movie in a way that felt like not only relevant, but like, I don't know, just increasingly kind of potent.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Imogen Poots, she plays Anna, and her character, you guys, you have a complicated relationship, but you eventually find your way to friendship. But her character is a vehicle for these conversations about consent and gender equality. Did that also feel really significant in today's social climate? Because kind of like for the same reasons we were just talking about toxic masculinity, it really felt so timely.
Yes, exactly. But I think, one of the really wonderful things about the movie is that it doesn't like feel like explicitly political. I think it's possible to watch the movie as like a kind of straight comedy and not feel like it's hitting you over the head with some political allegory, or that it's a, a kind of a Orwellian metaphor about, the current administration. Like it actually, because it wasn't written with that in mind.
Right.
And so in that way, the movie, I think, the best kind of political kinds of movies like this that have something to say do it in a subtle way without kind of alienating the audience that is, put off by feeling like they're being kind of condescended to.
Right. Now, the movie is obviously very dark, but it's also very funny. Yeah. Why do you think comedy is an efficient way to approach heavy subjects like toxic masculinity and bullying and violence and all these things?
Oh, I mean, like any other kind of accessible form of delivery system, it tricks you into kind of going along for the ride, and without realizing that it has something to say. This is why they have very attractive people read that a tornado is coming, because this person's nice and funny and accessible, but they're also telling me that there's going to be bad weather, so right. like any other kind of nice delivery system, comedy kind of brings you in a comfortable way, and then and then kind of deposits something that is a little more, edgy or potent or something. And this movie is just brilliantly funny, but it's not funny in the way that's like. The movie is funny on its own terms. Like the dialogue is brilliant, but the characters are never kind of like excessively winking at the audience or indicating to the audience that it's like funny or that it's like. So we've had this very interesting experience, like playing the movie at different like film festivals. Like audiences typically take it as that, like as something that's very funny, but like. For the first few minutes, I think they're kind of finding their way with the tone because the movie is so strange, which is what makes it great. But it also makes it feel, I think, very personal for people. Like people say, like, I can't believe I found that so funny, like as though it was like a, almost guilty personal thing that they experienced. Whereas that's pretty much the intent.
Right. No, I definitely felt that when Casey was finding his way to this hyper masculine persona. I mean. Riley has such an interesting approach to dialogue, and some of the things that Casey was saying as he was becoming more manly, really, it shocked me, but I found myself laughing so hard. What was one of your favorite lines?
My character, I mean, there was one scene, this is an independent movie, so you don't have like that much time or money to like screw things up, But there was one scene, I think we did like 25 actual takes of a scene because I could not stop laughing. And this doesn't happen to me like that much, but like it was like the sensei tells me I have to be more aggressive, and so there's one guy at my office who's actually kind of nice to me, who's my boss, and he invites me over to a barbecue, and instead of saying yes, I punch him in the throat, and while he's choking on the ground, I tell him that not only am I not going to go to his barbecue, but I'm going to imagine his wife in a bikini this weekend instead of going to the barbecue. And it's so absurd, and it's so unlike Casey that I just couldn't stop laughing. Also because this guy who's like this very sweet actor is like choking in front of me and making these like guttural sounds, and there's so many scenes like that are like these perfect comic juxtapositions where my character is the exact opposite of what you kind of were introduced to him as, and so that stuff is just so funny to me, and it's done so brilliantly in the movie. I mean, I have a scene like where like I usually get a croissant and orange juice every day for breakfast, but then I decide I need to have a more masculine meal, so I walk into the bakery and I say, I'm going to have coffee, hot, black, and with nothing to eat. Like it's just this guy who's this really sweet, timid guy basically being told by an authority figure, like, you have to act tough. It's like what I imagine, like what happens to like a sweet kid on the playground whose like aggressive father tells him to go punch that kid in the face, and so the kid just walks over terrified and just punches the guy in the face. That's like what Casey's going through. He's just been told to do all this stuff, but he doesn't know how to do it with any kind of, charm.
Right, yeah, his delivery is very robotic, which makes it all the much more funny.
Right, it's not natural.
Okay, so your resume is packed with a string of iconic films, from Zombieland to the Now You See Me films and the Justice League films and Social Network. How did this project compare to anything else you've ever done before?
Well, the tone of this movie was so unusual that after it was over, I just had the thought, like, I want to do exactly like this kind of thing again, but it's so hard to find. I did one other movie called The Double that had like a similar tone. It took place in a kind of similarly unplaceable world, and my character was kind of like similarly childish. And I remembered while I was doing this movie, like how much I loved doing that, and it's so rare. Movies just tend to be more naturalistic, just based on the medium. You're kind of watching people in close-up, so you expect a kind of naturalistic performance. But I would love to do more stuff like this that takes place in these kind of unusual worlds. Like, it made me realize, like, Johnny Depp, obviously I'm not comparing myself, but like, he comes out in all these things, and some people say like, well, why does he do all these eccentric characters? Like, you don't see him doing the kind of naturalistic stuff. And like, having gotten a little taste of that myself with a movie like this that takes place in such a fictitious universe, I just think, God, this is so much fun. And I'm not self-conscious at all doing it, because like I can't compare my behavior in the movie to anything that I normally do. So I'm just totally uncensored.
Yeah. Right. Now, back to the Now You See Me films. What can you tease about a third film? We're all on the edge of our seat.
Oh, well, you can feel free to go to the back of your seat and wait, because I'm sure I don't know, is there one happening? I don't know. Sometimes I do like interviews like this, and they reveal things to me that I didn't know about the things I'm supposed to be involved in. So, I hope there's a third one. Everybody likes doing it. The cast is like this amazing group of people, and I hope we can get together and do another one.
That
said,
awesome.
It's out of my control entirely.
Right. Well, with Now You See Me, you learned magic for that film, and then you learned karate for this film. What was more fun?
Oh, magic. It's, because you can do magic while sitting.
Yeah.
Karate is like really, really hard.
You don't need to kick anyone.
No.
Well, you guys can check out Jesse Kickin' Ass in the Art of Self-Defense, which is in theaters now. Jesse, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Evan.